Yo, what's poppin'? All right, so now we are on Matthew chapter 15. We just ended off with the chapter that has the famous story of Jesus walking on water. And now to start off with chapter 15, it starts off, it's titled That Which Defiles, right? And defiles means like that which like corrupts or, what is it? That which like basically makes a person unclean. Yeah. So, it starts off, it says, Then some Pharisees and teachers of the law came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked, Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? They don't wash their hands before they eat. I take in mind, like the Pharisees, like these are people where it's like they're strictly, long story short, they felt better. They viewed themselves as more, I guess, like godly than others because of the traditions and the ways they live rather than the heart of the situations. So now they're checking Jesus and his homies like, yo, like they didn't wash their hands before they eat. And like, we do, so like, they're like, check your boys. Like, why do they not do that, right? And then Jesus replies. And he always code with it. So he says, and why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? For God said, honor your father and your mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is devoted to God, they are not to honor their father or mother with it. Thus, you nullify the word of God for the sake of your tradition. You hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. And of course, when he says Isaiah, he's talking, Isaiah was a guy who, like, hundreds, I think like 700 years before Jesus was even born, like he talked about this person who was to come that would have all the characteristics of Jesus. And Isaiah could kind of like, God would show him things of the future, and Isaiah would write it down to let everyone know what God was telling them. And one of the things Isaiah wrote down was, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. And Jesus is saying, you hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he said this about you. He was saying that Isaiah was saying this about you. Now, when I just heard what he said with the whole like honoring your mother and father and all that stuff, I was kind of just reading it, and it didn't really connect with me. It didn't really make, I didn't comprehend it too well. So let's see what Dr. David Jeremiah has to say about that section. So my Bible is a study Bible. Dr. David Jeremiah, he has like little notes down at the bottom, right over here. So let's see here. Honor me with their lips, with their hearts far from me. So he says, the word command, God alone carries God full authority. Although people may imagine that tampering with tradition violates divine order, especially within the church, God's commands must always trump human customs. Okay, so the tradition of the elders. Yeah, what the heck was he talking about? So it says, the tradition of the elders said that if a grown child merely declares some property as devoted to God, the child did not have to use the property to care for the needs of an elderly parent. Jesus quotes Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, and chapter 21, verse 17 to show God's deep concern that children honor their parents in practical ways, not merely with respectful attitudes. And then it says, Jesus declares that true worship is not merely standing and sitting at the right time, saying the right words, and singing the right songs. Worship involves the whole person responding to all that God is. Dang, yeah, so basically, we live in 2020 right now, so it's hard to like wrap our head around like how homies was getting down back then. So supposedly there was this thing where people would devote land to God, and by doing that, they wouldn't have to take care of their parents on that land. I don't know. That's strange. Okay, let's move on. Jesus called the crowd to him and said, listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth is what defiles them. Woo. Then the disciples came to him and asked, do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this? He replied, every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be pulled up by the roots. Leave them. They are blind guides. If the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. Peter said, explain the parable to us, because you know Jesus always speaks like in parables and things like that, and which allow for our minds to like really try and dive deep into what he's saying rather than just speaking plainly. So when Peter says, explain the parable to us, Jesus says, are you still so dull? Jesus asked them, don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? He talking about pooping. But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart and then defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are all what defile a person, but eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. So really, he says all this just to wrap back around to what the Pharisees were saying, where it's like, yo, like, okay, we get it. Like, it's ritual to wash your hands beforehand, but like, you got to understand, like, that's not what makes a person good or evil, right? Like, that's just a custom. That's just a thing that like, we recommend doing, but that's not what makes a person's character. So then the faith of the Canaanite woman. Now, this one's crazy. And I'm gonna get a little deep on this one. I'm gonna convince you that Jesus is a racist. But just stick with me. Don't click off the video, because then we're gonna get deep. All right? All right, just stick with me on this. I hope I deliver this right. Oh gosh. All right, so leaving that place. So this next part is called the faith of the Canaanite woman. So quick history, Israelites and Canaanites. Think about it like segregation in the United States years ago, right? Where white people didn't get along with black people and there was like lynchings and things like that. The Canaanites were kind of viewed in the same way, where Israelites, people didn't really get down with the Canaanites. So just think about it in terms of black and white, right? To make it make sense. So it says, leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him, crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. All right? So Canaanite woman approaches Israelite man, all right, Jesus. And so just imagine segregation, black woman approaches white man asking for help. Jesus did not answer a word. What? So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. So even his disciples came up to him. They saw Jesus wasn't answering, and they're like, yo, okay, straight up, we don't rock with the Canaanites. And then they say, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. Imagine, black woman, group of white people, the leader of the white group that the black woman is trying to ask for help doesn't even respond to her, and then the other white people are like, yo, send that away, you know, whatever. That's what I want you to imagine, okay? This is giving you the context of the story. Jesus did not answer words, so his disciples came. He answered, and this is to the woman. He says, I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. So in terms of our story, black and white, imagine the white man saying, I was only sent for the white people. Okay? The woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. Black woman, keep up with the story. Black woman, come on, man. Please help me. He replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Ouch. He looked her in the face and said, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Now, I think you know the slang words that were used for black people. You can kind of imagine. So then she says, Yes, it is, Lord. She said, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. Then Jesus said to her, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. Now, we're going to bring it around and show you just exactly what Jesus just did. And I'm going to clarify that whole statement I made about the racism and show you how he used that in a way to shut his own people up. So, in terms of this story, it starts off, Canaanite woman approaches Israelites. Israelites know they don't rock with the Canaanites. So Jesus plays his cards to see how his people are going to respond. So she approaches and she's like, yo, my daughter, she's demon possessed. Can you heal her? Jesus doesn't respond. And he allows his disciples and everyone around him to show their true colors. And they say, Jesus, send her away, for she keeps calling out to us. Then he plays the role of what they're assuming he's going to do. So he tells her, look, I came for the lost people from over here, not for your people. Everyone, oh yeah, let her know, Jesus, let her know. But she insists, Lord, please just help me. And then he plays into it even deeper. He starts getting real deep with it. Is what's meant for the children? Like, should I toss the bread that's meant for the children to the dogs? Again, everybody, ooh, let her know. Everyone is now deeply invested into how is he going to get rid of this woman. He has everyone's attention now. And he's playing the way they would play it. And then when she replies, yes, Lord, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. At this moment, he doesn't call her a dog. He doesn't call her anything that is below what she is. Jesus said to her, woman. He saw her for her value. Then he let her know, you have great faith. And this is when everyone is watching. Your request is granted. And it says, and her daughter was healed at that moment. Jesus got everyone's attention. The dude was a hustler, dog. He got everyone's attention. Once he had all of them thinking, yes, like, let that Canaanite woman know. He then showed them the example of what you were supposed to do. See her for what she is, a woman. He commended her for her faith, and then at that moment told her she was healed. Jesus played all of his boys, all of his followers, and let all them know, bro, y'all wrong. And I bet y'all thought I wasn't going to heal her. But look, the dude is cold, bro. Dude is cold, man. I'm going to let that sink in. Okay. So next it says, Jesus feeds the 4,000. Jesus left there and went along the Sea of Galilee. Then he went up on a mountainside and sat down. Great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. The people were amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled made well, and the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they praised the God of Israel. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. I do not want to send them away hungry, or they may collapse on the way. His disciples answered, where could we get enough bread in this remote place to feed such a crowd? Now, if you haven't seen, Jesus gets it done. If the crowd is hungry and they need food, Jesus can supply it. He can supply all of the needs. But they still talking about something, yo, how are we gonna feed these people? How are we gonna do it? So then Jesus says, how many loaves do you have? 7, they replied, and a few small fish. He told the crowd to sit on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and when he had given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and they in turn to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. They didn't just eat, they didn't just nibble, they all ate and were satisfied. Afterwards, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was 4,000 men, besides women and children. After Jesus had sent the crowd away, he got into the boat and went to the vicinity of Magadan. So that's the end of chapter 15. And I feel like it ends off on a crazy note where, at that time in history, the people who were counted were the men. They didn't, so they counted 4,000 men, and they didn't even count the women and the children. And with 7 loaves of bread and a few fish, Jesus was able to, supply more than enough. Everyone was satisfied, and there were baskets left over of food. And this just shows that, like, that's the character of Jesus. Like, when you decide to rely on him for your life, right? Like I'm sitting here in my own studio that, like, honestly, it's like a miracle that I have the things that I have, that I'm in the position that I'm in. But when you commit yourself to Jesus and you just like, yo, man, like, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this, he's gonna ask, how many loaves do you have? And you let him know, look, this is what I'm working with. This is what I have. And at that moment, you let him do what he does. And then you got more left over. Like, I got boxes you can see in the side right over there. I got boxes of stuff that I still have to unpack, and put together. So it's like, I wouldn't say a life with Jesus is a easy life, but it definitely, it just feels good to have someone's hand that you can hold through life to help you, get to the finish line. And what's crazy is like, it just, the hope that's provided, with, because life isn't always easy, right? Like, life has its hardships. Life has the moments where it doesn't feel like you're thriving and things like that. But I mean, with the story of Jesus, you can see even he has to deal with some things, and it just feels good, like I said, to have someone's hand that you can hold throughout the process. And I don't know, for me, it just feels like a cheat code life. Like, I'm trying my best. I'm trying to put my best foot forward to try and offer the things that I learned from it. This is the best thing I can think of, is just on Sundays uploading the word itself, like these words. Like, I don't want to just freestyle stuff, like, but I just hope, someone out there is hitting somebody, and because that's all it was for me. Is, all it took was one friend for it to really translate to me. And once it translated to me and it hit me, like, it's crazy to think, like, I can at least hit one person, right now. So that's just my whole hope with this, what I'm doing on Sundays, is just hoping that it's at least hitting one person, because then that one person can mess around and hit 10,000, 100,000. So yeah, for me, it just feels like a cheat code life having Jesus, because it makes it to where when things don't feel easy, I got someone that I can look to for examples and pick-me-ups, right? Like if I feel as if, like, I'm getting anxious and I'm like, how am I gonna do this or how am I gonna do that? I'm able to look at these stories and see, like, no, like, there was a point in time where there was 4,000 people following him, and Jesus had compassion on that, right? Like, I get to see his character, and it's like he saw the thousands of people, and he said, yo, I don't want them to go home hungry, right? And just with the little bit he was able to provide. So knowing that that's his character, it makes it to where when I'm in a situation where I feel, like my back's against the wall and things like that, I just look at the character of Jesus and realize that he has compassion for me. Like, the fact that he loves every single one of us to a crazy amount. All we have to do is just sit down on the ground and be willing to receive, the bread and the fish and stuff. So I could ramble all day about my boy, but it's really just, it's whether or not the Holy Spirit's gonna reveal it to you, and that's just what I hope that I'm able to at least plant seeds for. So that's it. That's it of me rambling, man, because I'll talk all day. Peace.